it was either I be with him and then he would think about taking care of Brennix. But if I wasn't going to be with him, then he didn't want to have anything to do with Brennix because I didn't want to be with him. So from that day that we got home from the hospital, he has not contacted us.
Ms. Moreau, are you the mother of Brennix, the child who is the subject of this suit?
Yes, I am.
Who is Brennix's father?
Angel de Hoyos.
And Your Honor, I offer into evidence the genetic testing report that shows that, let me pull the correct one up here, that shows that Angel de Hoyos is the father of Brennix de Hoyos with a 99.99 in excess of 99.99 repeating percentage probability of fraternity. I offer that as State's Exhibit number 1.
Any objection, Ms. Moreau, to that exhibit coming in as evidence?
No objection.
State's Exhibit number 1 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Does Brennix live with you right now, Ms. Moreau?
Yes, he does.
Does Mr. de Hoyos currently live or currently visit with Brennix?
No, he does not.
Okay. When's the last time that Mr. de Hoyos saw Brennix?
In the hospital when he was born.
Okay. What kind of visitation would you like for Mr. de Hoyos to have with Brennix in the future?
As of right now, I would say none, just because of Brennix's mental.
Okay. And can you explain that a little bit further?
Yes. Brennix got diagnosed not too long ago with autism and a list of other things that kind of spectrum out of his autism. And a result to that is he does not like change. He has a hard time with meeting new people as a result of acting out and a list of other things that I did provide as well into the case, just in case I needed to have those in there. And he needs a lot of attention, responsibility, and you have to be a type of way with him for his medical. So Mr. De Hoyos is just not responsible. And he has his own mental, so I feel like they both couldn't kind of clash well together. So that's also why I do stay home for Brennix, because he doesn't like environmental changes, any type of changes. So I've gotten with his doctors and his therapist, and they've all agreed to the same thing of just him not having any type of visitation just because of Brennix's mental.
Okay, so it's not good for Brennix to have to change environments and go to places he's not familiar with. Is that right?
Correct. And that's also why we are going to have to figure out a school for him in a different way, just because that is going to be another change he's going to have.
Okay. And how old is Brennix right now?
He's 5 years old right now.
All right. So he hasn't started school yet because you're still figuring that out?
Yes, he starts in August. We delayed him back a year for he could do a whole year of everyday like therapy, so that way we could get him prepared for kindergarten at least, since he didn't get to go to pre-K.
Okay. And this kind of goes hand in hand with something that I was kind of skipped over earlier. Brennix's name right now appears to be Brennix de Hoyos. Did you want to change it to something else?
Yes, I did. I wanted to change it to Brennix Reed, just because also in therapy and with his mindset, he is stuck on his name is Brennix Reed. First and last is Brennix Reed. We've tried before saying De Hoyos, and he will not. He has no mental to try to get past that. And we've already tried. So now everyone just assumes his name is Brennix Reed. When we call him, you have to call him Brennix Reed. You aren't allowed to call him Brennix by itself or Bryn. You have to say it fully if you are going to acknowledge him or talk to him, just because that's the way he responds.
Okay. So his name currently, his full name, first, middle, last, is Brennix Reed de Hoyos.
Correct.
You would like to change it to first name and last name Brennix Reed with no middle name.
Correct.
Okay. Just making sure that I understood all correctly. Okay,
Hold on, is Reed a last name or is that just his middle name?
That's just his middle name, but that's what he kind of understands in his head. So if you try to tell him and try to correct him when we try to work with him in his therapies and stuff, he will have a fit. He will not. So we've just always called him just Brennix Reed. But whenever you do address him, you do have to address him as Brennix Reed. You can't just say Brennix, like just to talk to him, because he'll get upset with you just because I'm not sure what the therapist, his speech therapist had told me, but she just said it's just kind of the way he has to have things in order. You have to kind of tell him certain things in order for him to then proceed to have some type of conversation with you. But he is nonverbal, so we are working with that. So that kind of does get him a little upset whenever you kind of don't do things his way in those learning.
Okay.
now, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Miss Moreau, but it's kind of, I guess, fixed in his mind the way things are, and he doesn't
Yes.
like change. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes, and that's also what she put in his report, that he does not like change or anything of the sort.
Okay. And kind of going hand in hand with the visitation, do you want to be the party to make all the decisions for Brennix, deciding where he goes to school, making medical decisions, directing his religious education if it ever comes to that?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. De Hoyos has so far been uninvolved in making decisions with Brennix?
Yes, hasn't made a single one.
Okay. All right. To your knowledge, does Mr. De Hoyos have any other children below the age of 18 that he
Yes.
is obligated to care for or provide for?
He has two that I do know of, but I don't know if there's any others. I know it was a possibility, but I haven't spoken to him in over 5 years, so I have no idea. But I know two of that I do know of.
What kind of health insurance does Brennix have right now?
Brennix has Medicaid right now.
Okay. Uh, and in addition to child support going forward, did you also want to request retroactive child support, as in support going back into the past?
Yes.
Okay. Has Mr. De Hoyos provided any kind of support for Brennix up to now?
No, he hasn't.
He's never sent you any kind of assistance.
No, not a single dollar.
Has he even communicated with you about Brennix?
No, it was the day that we got from the hospital, the very day, since it was the domestic whole situation. It was either I be with him and then he would think about taking care of Brennix. But if I wasn't going to be with him, then he didn't want to have anything to do with Brennix because I didn't want to be with him. So from that day that we got home from the hospital, he has not contacted us. I've tried to reach out to him. He has not. So I'm not simply going to make him try to
Okay.
be there.
You mentioned a domestic situation. That's something we need to go into. So has there been some kind of domestic violence situation in the past?
Yes, it was our whole relationship before Brennix, during Brennix, while I was pregnant, and then after, whenever he broke into my house and he was he was kind of dragging me everywhere and throwing me into things and hitting me while I had Brennix in my hands. So we did call the cops and they went to go get him from school because he walked over to school, and he also got arrested for that, but also arrested for having drugs and being intoxicated at school because he went to school right after he did that. I live across the street from the school. And then the judge then got us a restraining order that she ordered for us as well. So it's kind of just always been a thing that he's just very aggressive and stuff like that. So.
Okay. And when you're
Can
mentioning
Can
school,
we go back, Mr. Boonashek? The testimony I got that he hasn't seen the child since the child was born, but yet she testified that she was holding the child. So can we get some explanation on that?
Yes, he would always come to my house uninvited. By come to my house, I would mean break into my house. There's been multiple occasions that he's busted down my door. That's another thing that the police saw whenever he did go there. He was upset with me because I didn't let him hold Brennix while I knew he was under the influence, because you could just see it in his face and smell it on him. So I hid us into my room so that way he wouldn't be able to get Brennix. And he broke down my door also as the front door, that's how he got in. He broke that down, and then he broke down my room door. And then I put Brennix down, and then so that way he wouldn't touch him in my room. And then we went out of the room so I could try to get him to leave. And that's when he proceeded to kind of throw me everywhere in the house and hit me everywhere in the house. And I kept trying to just fight him to get him out of the house.
Okay,
And
when was this?
this was, let me see, I don't have it in front of me, but it was 2021 because Brennix was only about 2 weeks, maybe not even 2 weeks old.
And just
And
to
so,
put a,
oh,
just
go
to put a
ahead.
little bit of a timeline together, because now Brennix is about 6 years, or you said 5, is that
Yeah.
right? When does Brennix turn 6?
Next year. He just turned 5 this year
Just turned 5.
in
Okay.
March. Yes.
Okay. And how old were you when you had Brennix?
I was, I believe, 16 or 17.
Okay. And do you recall how old Mr. De Hoyos was when you had Brennix?
Um, he's younger than me. I think he was 15, about to be 16.
Okay. So when you're referring to school, it was like high school.
Yes.
Okay.
He was I think at the time he was a freshman, because then he also got kicked out of school for that also, because he always had things going on at school like that as well. That wasn't the first time something's happened with us. Because I've tried to call the school the last time about the domestic stuff that would happen at school, because I was pregnant, and he would be hitting me at school. I tried to call them the other day so I could have more evidence to provide for the case today, and of course they didn't report anything, just because the school there was very much felt sorry for him in a way, so they would always let him go with things. That's why he was able to do so much things at school, because as far as walking into the classroom and be able to go into my classes just to see what I was doing, it was allowed, because they didn't want to deal with him because he was so aggressive all the time. So they would just call his mom, and it wasn't ever a thing. So I've tried to call for those records, and I've assumed already that they didn't report it because they've never did. And they never held him accountable as far as putting him in ISS for what he did, or like anything like that. It was kind of just a go on with your day type thing.
Okay. Well, you said that the police came at least once
Yes.
and sounded like that he was arrested.
Yes.
Did he ever go to jail?
Go to your room. Yes, he did actually. He went. You're okay. Go. Um, but as far as that, yes, he did. They went to go get him from school because they were trying to find him because we didn't know where he went, and they picked him up from school, and then that's when they searched him and they found drugs in his pocket and that he had alcohol in his breath. So then they also did take him for the domestic, and then also for having drugs on the school property.
Okay. So all of this together also weighs into why you don't feel comfortable with him having visitation. Is that
Right,
fair to
correct.
say?
And then it all weighs into us moving also, and that's why I don't want my information shared, just because he would, even after that, the only time I would quote unquote see him would be him breaking into my house, and literally I would have to try to call my cousins that live next to me to come get him, because he would break into my window, break down the door, and then they would have to come and get him because he would just want to be real kind of crazy like that. But it was never to see Brennix, it was always to see what I was doing. It was never to want to see Brennix. So we did move, so I've been very disclosed with my location and kind of just cut off from all that little town life that's over there in Lorenzo, just because I do want to keep Brennick's and myself safe, because I do not feel safe with him at all in any aspects.
Okay, so you kind of beat me to my next question. You would like the judge to issue an order of non-disclosure, keeping your address and your phone number and your contact
Yes.
information out of the order.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And you indicated that Mr. De Hoyos has never given you any kind of assistance to help with Brennick's.
Correct. Not a single dollar, nothing.
Okay. All right. Let me check this. Okay, I think that's it for this witness, Judge. I'll pass the witness.
Okay, Ms. Moreau, do you know when Mr. De Hoyos graduated high school?
He did not graduate.
Okay.
He that when that incident happened, they asked him to go to DAP, and that was going to be his like third time of going.
Okay.
and he
Okay,
didn't-
hold on.
Sorry.
Did you graduate high school?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
When did you graduate?
2023.
Do you know, have you seen Mr. De Hoyos since 2023?
No, I haven't seen him at all. For the past 5 years.
And so you don't know where he's been living or been working since
I know.
23?
I know he still lives at the exact same house. Just because I do know that at least that much.
Okay.
But
Alright.
other than that, working, no, ma'am.
All right. You may proceed, Mr. Boonashek. Next witness.
No further witnesses, Your Honor. I offer the investigation report that was prepared by Child Support Officer Mary Eaton as State's Exhibit 2.
Any
that-
objection, Ms. Moreau, to State's Exhibit number 2 coming in as evidence?
No objection.
Okay, State's Exhibit 2 is admitted.
And state rests.
All right, do you have any other testimony, Ms. Moreau?
Just as I just wanted to be very known that it wasn't I don't want Brennick to have involvement with him. It's more of less I'm concerned for my child and myself, as far as in I'm doing so well trying to keep away just because of all the domestic violence, and as well as Brennick's mental and his autism. You just have to be very gentle with him, and so it does concern me if he was able to see him, just because he does have so much aggression. So I do worry about him becoming physical as well as with Brennick's as he was me, just because of how he is. So that is just a big kind of concern of mine. So I just do want to take that into consideration, that it's not I didn't want Brennick to be seeing him for the whole 5 years. It's just I have to worry about my child first before I worry about anybody else's feelings.
Is Moreau your maiden name?
Yes, it is.
And so do you feel that any contact with Mr. De Hoyos would cause your child mental, physical abuse, or subject him to some sort of harassment by Mr. De Hoyos?
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right. Do you have any other testimony?
No, ma'am, nothing that I could think of.
Mr. Boonashek, any issues in which you want to have a final word on?
I don't believe so, Judge. I've done a quick calculation based on the investigation report and come up with, assuming a $50 Medicaid payment, a guideline support amount of $465. The retroactive award, of course, is going to depend on what we can consider as income to have been so far back when he was, still 18. So I'm not sure what the court would award.
Okay.
But
All right. All right. And Ms. Moreau, this is a point of closing in which you're going to say what you're requesting of me.
Okay.
Do you have any requests other than what the Attorney General's office has requested?
Just a request as in to keep the disclosure as we've talked about, and just that he doesn't have visitation, only just for that my child and me could be more safe, but that way my child could live his life in his mental as best as could be, just so that way he could go on without having to kind of go out of his element with his diagnosis and stuff of how he really thinks of things himself and be uncomfortable in all situations of things.
Okay.
So that's probably the only things that I do hope for.
All right. I will establish Mr. De Hoyos as the father of the child. I am changing. I understand that the child wants to be called Brennix Reed, but I also feel like it's important to have a last name, whether he uses it or not. That's your choice.
Okay.
I will change the child's last name to Moreau, your last name. I will name Miss Moreau sole managing conservator of the child with the exclusive right to determine the primary residence of the child without regard to geographic location. Due to the testimony and the prior family violence, domestic violence between Miss Moreau and Mr. De Hoyos that has kind of involved the child in some aspects, I'm going to decline to name Mr. De Hoyos as a possessory conservator of the child due to the physical or mental development impairment that Mr. De Hoyos could impact the child with. So I will also not order any possession and access at this time. There will be, I do find that there has been family violence or domestic violence between the two parties. I will order a non-disclosure for Miss Moreau. I'm going to order Ms. Moreau to maintain government health insurance through a government health insurance program and order Mr. De Hoyos to pay $35 per month beginning May 1st, 2026. I will order current child support based on the gross income, $3,450.50, and order Mr. De Hoyos to pay $467 per month beginning May 1st, 2026. I will order a retroactive child support judgment against Mr. De Hoyos in the amount of $4,500 and order that Mr. De Hoyos pay $65 per month towards that judgment beginning May 1st, 2026. Court costs will be assessed against Mr. De Hoyos to be paid 1 year from today's date. Does that address all the issues, Mr. Boonashek?
I believe that covers everything, Judge.
Any party can ask for a new hearing on any of the issues I've ruled on today by filing a trial de novo with the Crosby County District Clerk's Office within the next 3 days. It must be in writing. It must specify the portion of my ruling in which a new hearing is being requested, and notice must go out to the parties as to the filing of the de novo request. Mr. Boonashek will draft the order, submit it to me for review. Once I've signed it, a copy will go to you, Ms. Moreau, also to Mr. De Hoyos. I appreciate you being here today. That concludes today's hearing, and you're free to disconnect from the Zoom meeting.